I worked at Joann Fabrics for 8 years, and the manager wanted a small quilt for a display to sell the books on making quilts. So I made a miniature quilt, which is about 12 by 18, hung that on the wall above the quilt book display. 1 week later, it was gone. Somebody stole it. But that still lit my fire, and I started doing a little bit of quilting until after I quit working. Then I had more time. I mean, 15 years ago, I was buying Civil War reproduction fabrics, where I did the log cabin, the red and gold log cabin with the Civil War reproduction. Now that stack is sitting there, and I'm into the bright. Usually I go, now, Kay Fassett is a national or international fabric designer and knit designer and tapestry designer, decorator fabrics,
Yes.
and his colors.
And his prints.
Oh, the designs. There's the Kay Fassett Collective, 3 designers in England that work together, and they coordinate so that you can mix and match their fabrics, and they're all bright, big florals where you'll see a flower that's about 8 inches across. That's what I used in the Escher quilt. When I moved 3 years ago, we moved and we downsized, and I had to box up all the fabric and then unpack it and put it back on my shelf in the sewing room, and I'm thinking, holy Toledo, where'd all this come from? It's not yardage, it's tonnage. I have all the Civil War fabrics. I've got all the black fabrics. I've got all the reds, the purples, the greens, the cat fabric, the neutrals, all the Kay Fassett, solids, stripes and plaids. They're all grouped. Mine are by color. All the reds and greens and purples and blues. And I see a fabric and I say, I'd like to make a quilt like that. And then with that fabric, and then I say, okay, what? Do I want to cut the pieces big? Do I want to cut the pieces small? Is it a big print? Do I want to ruin that nice big design? It tells me what to do. Sometimes you want to iron your blocks as you're sewing. But it's the simplest tool. It's a wood stick that one end is tapered. And you just take it like you're holding a iron, and you just run it along and press that little seam open instead of going to the ironing board. And when I did the Escher quilt, I did iron every single step all the way around each triangle. It had to be accurate. 94 of them, I think there was, maybe more. That pattern was so well organized, the directions, that I said, well, nobody's going to call me while I'm working on this quilt, because if you get distracted and you put the wrong color on this one side of one triangle, it will not work, because there's 24 different fabrics, each 8 groups of 3, where you have, say it's a stripe, be a light and a medium and a dark, and each one would form the Y. But you had to make sure you kept those grouped right, but they're not pieced that way on each triangle. There's so many different ways to lay it out. And then I had to put a flannel sheet up on my wall in the sewing room and pin every single triangle in order before I started sewing anything together. If they didn't know about quilting, I would hope that they could appreciate how much work goes into a quilt, and that a lot of thought, how much thought goes into it.